Hello and welcome to the Audible Preseason Week 1 Friday edition. I am joined alongside my guys, Donnie Rightside and the Whale Capper. We did a lot of the heavy lifting on Tuesday as there was 11 games on the schedule Thursday night. Now we have 2 tonight and 3 on Saturday. We will be breaking those games down and talking about our takeaways from last night's action. First, Donnie Rightside, how are you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Doing good. Friday, talking a little bit of football, what we saw went over yesterday. And contrary to popular demand out there, Jimmy, it was not me that put the $10,000 wager down on the Minnesota Vikings to win the Super Bowl this year, but I might take credit if it does happen.
As you should. As you should. Whale Capper coming to us from Los Angeles, California. How are you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Oh, I couldn't be better, man. That preseason slate last night was so much fun to watch. It's so fun to have football back. I actually like the way that they do that, where they just drop all those games, and it's just a celebration of the start of the preseason. That was awesome, and can't wait to get into the rest of these games.
There were some great looks by you guys, especially the Titans look for you, and I did tail that first half. I should have probably doubled up. I didn't have a great start to my preseason. 2 wins, 4 losses, small unit size. Everything's okay. No panicking in week 1 of the preseason. But I could have started out better. I will start with my takeaways from Thursday, and then we'll head over to you guys. First off, 2-4 preseason Thursday night. Hit that easy over in the Giants-Jets game. Darnold started, looked strong, 7 plays, 75-yard drive. Daniel Jones looked very good. 5 for 5 for 67 yards. He is supposedly badly outplaying Eli Manning in camp. Manning comes in, completes his only pass for 3 yards in a 3-and-out for the Giants. As I said, Whale Cap, a great call on the Titans. Mariota played and looked bad. Tannehill came in and looked good. I was only on the first half. I wish I doubled up. Patriots looked dominant, as always. The Lions, for the second year in a row, looked woefully underprepared, and I almost took the Lions. I came very close, broke it down on betting with the bag, and decided to stay off of it. Oh, thank God. N'Keal Harry looked like a boss. Undrafted rookie free agent Jacoby Myers looked good. And then Savage and Fales get sacked 6 times on their first 18 dropbacks. Are you kidding me? Detroit had negative 11 passing yards well into the fourth quarter. On a different game, Panthers look good. Brian Burns, 2 sacks last night, 16th overall pick out of Florida State. Expectations are very high for the Browns. Mayfield looked excellent, 89-yard drive to open up action. Dwayne Haskins did not look good. John Harbaugh, as always, wins preseason games. Kyler Murray did not score in his opening drive, but looked good. I lost on that first half over. I guess those were my main notes from Thursday. Just before I hand it over to you, Donnie, let me welcome all the Cappers in the chat. We got Oscar Valverde, Ramirez, Capper, John, Astute Chaos, Larry, Edwards, Lucky Larry. We got Jungle Boy who's saying Steelers money line. We got Trot Wham and Jay Peach. Jay Peach says, mark my words, every team in the NFL is going to try to embarrass the Lions this year. Patricia is a marked man, and like I said, no respectable man or team will want to lose to this team. Wow, Jay Peach. That Jay Peach coming out firing week 1 of the preseason. I love that, Jay Peach. Donnie Rightside, takeaways from Thursday night's action.
Yeah, I think we had some pretty good looks on the show as we went over for the past couple of days. What we got right, the Buffalo Bills, and what I really got wrong would have been the Detroit Lions game. But, the one that I like to hang my hat on here is the under 31.5 in Baltimore. What a stone-cold lock that was, 29-0 at that game. So I hang my hat on that one. The one game that I actually put a little bit of money down because I thought I might have had an edge, when A.J. McCarron went out, I took the Green Bay Packers at -2, sat back, and I'm out walking my dog last night, Jimmy, just checking some scores, 28-10. I'm like, you know what? I don't even have to check in on that game again. I wake up today to see 28-26. But my biggest takeaway, if you watch the Miami Dolphins Atlanta Falcons game, and if you were because the game got bet up late, we're talking about 3s going to like 4s, and you're saying at the end of the game, hey, man, this is fantastic. 27-27, 4th down on my own 16-yard line. We'll punt the football away. Dolphins will drive for a touchdown. The Falcons go for it on 4th and 9. He gets sacked, which sets up a touchdown by the Miami Dolphins. And on the flip side, when we talked about the Titans game, I'm watching the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, Whale Capper had that game pegged. I said, you know what? Same thing with Monte. I said, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit of a lean here towards the Titans. You watch them drive right down the field with Marcus Mariota. Good drive. It stalls. 4th and 7. bring the kicker out here and get a quick 3 points. Hey, go for it on 4th and 7 and don't get it. I got my hands up in the air saying, how do I bet this stuff? But hey, if you won, damn right you capped it right. Don't let anybody tell you different.
That's great. That's a very nice. I like that breakdown of Thursday night's action. Well, Capper, what were your takeaways from last night?
Yeah, I think all those points were really relevant. There was a couple of bad beats. That Chargers, the Chargers Cardinals game. They first drive, Eckler fumbles it on the goal line going in. That really blew that over up. From Jump Street there, which was too bad because I would have gotten to 21 otherwise. And then I had the under in the second half of that Giants Jets game. Not only is there a pick six, which put that under pressure immediately, but then in the fourth quarter with all the fourth stringers in, Jets drive down the field. Giants amazing goal line stand, hold them on 4th and 4. Just a total phantom penalty. Gives the Jets a first down on the 2-yard line with like 20 seconds to go, and they punch it in to take that second half over. It was unbelievable seeing it play out. So bad beat season is in already. But overall, I thought that the quarterback play from the young quarterbacks in the league was pretty impressive. Now, I don't want to overreact to this because I know if you're a coach and you have a young quarterback, there's nothing you'd rather do than set them up with an easy to implement game plan to build their confidence and make them look good. That said, Darnold and Baker Mayfield kind of in the same moment were just absolutely absolutely dialed in. Daniel Jones was impressive. I know they're making a lot out of him in New York this morning. I think if you can find a prop for Daniel Jones starts, I think it's time to really start looking at that over because I can't imagine Eli Manning makes it through the season as the starter in New York at this point. But yeah, kickers were miserable yesterday. So many missed extra points. Some easy to make field goals got missed, and coaching decision making was all over the place. You really couldn't nail down motivations very well. On a lot of teams, I thought, in terms of what the coaches were trying to do with the game. And I think we were lucky to come out with some pretty nice winners.
Yeah, I enjoyed capping Thursday preseason week 1. I thought that it was very enjoyable. And I look forward to cap these 5 games here. But before I do, I need to touch and hear what you guys have to say about what Jay Peach has said because I pumped the brakes. Basically because of a guy who's a big fan of yours, Donnie, Joe Yurkovich. Joe Yurkovich went off on me, a guy who watches our shows, a big SBR guy, went off on me for the amount of future bets I made last year. I started with those 2 $400 bets, and then Joe Yurkovich like, you're going to do it again. And I only ended up, I had lost 1.8 units on my future bets last year. And I was like, you know what, I'll pump the brake. But I wanted to hammer the Detroit Lions. I wanted to hammer their over. There was so much that I wanted to hammer. I wanted a piece of their division. I was believing in this Detroit Lions squad, and then they get completely embarrassed. Donnie, we'll start with you. Should I be scared? Should I still be hesitant or give this bet pause right now?
No, I don't believe so at all. And I'm going to give you a nice little, from you're looking at it from a Detroit perspective. I live in the city of Philadelphia, and you would not believe sports radio today, Jimmy. Now, we're coming into the summer. The Eagles are a bona fide Super Bowl caliber contending team coming in. And we can all agree one of the deepest teams in the NFL from first-line players all the way down to 4-string players. They were horrific last night showing their depth, and everything went wrong. Nate Sudfeld breaks his wrist, and they come in with Cody Kessler and then Thorsten, the quarterback out of Northwestern. They were lucky if they could hit a fan in the stands with an incomplete pass, much less hit somebody in the Eagles game itself. When you look at those games and you try to take a step back, you're only looking at the motivation of this is let's get some work, let's get some on tape here. Would you have liked the victory and the stamp your flag in the ground like Baker Mayfield out there, dancing around the first quarter? These games don't mean anything. What you put all that work into, Jimmy, in the offseason, when you see the team develop, what they show in week 1 of the preseason, 2 or 3, and it always goes back to the old adage. The Dallas Cowboys routinely got destroyed in the preseason in the 90s and ended up winning 3 Super Bowls. I take nothing out of the games last night, except if there's like a code red where this is your starting quarterback and he is absolutely atrocious out there. Outside of that, I don't look at any of it there. I take it, I roll with the punches, and you should be fine. I'm still happy with the Detroit plays there, Jimmy. I am.
And what about, and that does give me confidence. I've yet to bet them. I want to bet them, but just seeing this same thing happening that happened last year with Patricia being woefully underprepared. Whale Capper, do you feel any fear in some of our breakdowns on the Lions?
I do, actually, and this isn't an overreaction to how they performed in losing the way they lost. This is a meaningless game. They were presumably working on certain things and they weren't trying to win, so who cares? But but without a doubt, getting booed going into halftime in a preseason game is bad. I mean, like, that's rough. And so if things don't get off to a great start, either Patricia looks okay, the coaching staff kind of pulls it together, they get some wins early in the season and they kind of calm things down, or they don't look great and the heat is on, and then it becomes a matter of who takes the blame, and those kind of situations are never good. But what actually scared me the most about the Lions in that game yesterday was their inability to protect the quarterback. That was a problem last year. It got Stafford injured. We didn't really know the extent of Stafford's injury last year. He had like fractured vertebrae. And if your offensive line has not made a substantial upgrade, and if you don't have the coaching staff to coach these guys up or the protection schemes to keep your guy upright, it's going to be a problem. And and the idea now that you're one Matthew Stafford injury away from some of the guys we saw, taking snaps for the Lions last night is pretty scary. So my enthusiasm on the Lions has cooled substantially, and it's mostly just on the basis of the potential for Stafford injuries and poor offensive line play.
Yes. Thankfully, we have 3 more weeks to break these down before we have to have our futures in. Well, let's get started right now breaking down these games. We'll start with the Buccaneers at Steelers. Steelers opened at -3, now at -1.5. Total opened at 37, now at 37.5. Head coach Mike Tomlin, 24-26 against the spread in the preseason, and 20 of his 50 preseason games have gone over, 30 under. And now we get Bruce Arians back, a man I'm a big fan of, 10-9-2 against the spread preseason, and 11 of his 21 games have gone over. Steelers enter a new era. No Le'Veon, no Antonio Brown, and then we get Arians out of retirement to lead a franchise that has had 2 winning seasons this decade. Jalen Samuels will get a lot of run today for the Steelers, 256 rushing yards in his rookie year. 4th-round pick Benny Snell Jr. will also be in the mix. The Steelers have a brewing competition. They have a backup job competition with Joshua Dobbs and Mason Rudolph. And on the other side of things, Blaine Gabbert and Ryan Griffin are battling for the right to back up Jameis Winston. Now, Buccaneers at Steelers this evening. And may I say, of these 5 games we break down, it is our guy, John, the Chicago sports informant. It is his birthday today. He's in the chat. Capper John wanted a play for a birthday pick, and I found this baseball card extremely difficult today and don't feel confident in giving him one. Let's find him one from these 5 plays. Donnie, right now, Buccaneers at Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking a look at, sometimes we play those angles in the preseason where coaches that care, new coaches that come in and want to establish themselves. I mean, Bruce Arians technically coming in, quote unquote, new, but he's been around the block and he's going to take the preseason as he's always taken it. I mean, you always want to win. Yes, it's your first game. You don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to get beat, 29-0 like we saw on the scoreboard yesterday. But coming into this game, I actually like the Steelers a little bit, even though they are the favorite here. I always like to take a look at quarterback battles of what's going to take place and what we can anticipate. You've had 2 decent performers in the preseason in Mason Rudolph and Joshua Dobbs. I always like to have a guy, even if you're not a pure passer, like Mason Rudolph's going to try to pass the ball. Joshua Dobbs is more of that, dual threat type guy, because how many times have we watched the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter, the first preseason game? Nothing works right. The passing game breaks down completely. But if you have a guy with some legs who can get out there and run and move the football, that does add dividends. I think the better quarterbacking situation for pregame number 1 tonight is with Pittsburgh, Jimmy, and I'm going to stay that way. Give me the Steelers tonight.
The Steelers are appealing, and that was the first thing that our guy Jungle Boy 223 said in the chat. He said Steelers, money line, easy. How do you see this breaking down, Whale Capper?
I would generally side with the home team who's getting points in this sort of thing, but I got to tell you, I'm not a huge Mason Rudolph guy. I do not love Dobbs as a backup quarterback, and I would be only betting the Steelers first half if I felt like I had an angle there. My look here is probably going to look for a second half under as we see this game play out. I don't have a good solid pregame look on this one because we know Bruce Arians is familiar with Pittsburgh. He spent a lot of his career there. He's familiar with the atmosphere there. He probably would like to get a little bit of a momentum going with his new spot here. But all said, I think these are pretty evenly matched second, third, fourth units, and I don't see a clear and obvious edge here.
Now, one thing about this game is the Buccaneers have said over and over again, or Arians has said over and over again, that the running game has to improve. It was 29th ranked last year. We're going to work on the running game. We're going to work on the running game. Does that tell you that unders are in play in this game because of Arians' need to focus on the running game? Donnie, does that make you think, if I gave you a free play on the total, what would you do?
I mean, if you're ever going to give me a free play in the total in the preseason, Jimmy, it doesn't even matter what the expectation is. I'm always going to lean towards the under because and again, Will Capper brought up when we started the show here, there are some oddness going on, which we always see week one with penalties. 20, 15 accepted penalties that just come back. Give me the under all day long. If somebody's saying we're going to work on the running game, you know what that means to me? We're not going to really – I mean, they're going to throw some passes out there, don't get me wrong, but our scheme is let's see who's physical out here. Because if you ever played football before, sometimes you go through stretches. We're just going to see who's tough here. We're going to pound the football tonight. Give me the under in this game.
The under, that makes sense to me with after what Bruce Arians said. We've already heard you leaning towards a second half under. We got Maxwell Smart in the chat. Love seeing him there. Brian Riley says home crowd is the edge. Go Pittsburgh. Are you only on the second half under? If I gave you a free play on the full game, would you make a move towards the under?
No, I like your angle a lot. And really what you brought into the discussion was huge, and that is when coaches tell you that they're going to do something in the preseason, listen to them. Like, they're not out here trying to deceive us. They're legitimately trying to kind of inform the fans, inform the media, like, this is what you should look out for in this game. And if they're going to work on the run game, if they're going to shorten the game in that regard, then by all means line up and bet the under here. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, both teams have to kind of build their defense on the fly here too. So I would expect that you see some pretty competent defensive play, and the full game under makes a ton of sense. But I particularly circled this one as a nice look for a second half under, just based on who our starting quarterbacks are likely going to be coming out of the locker room.
Yeah, that all seems to make sense to me. And your lean towards the Steelers first half, Will Capper, was that you think that Dobbs will get the more first half reps?
No, it was more just that the second half the Steelers might put up a goose egg. It was if you're going to back the Steelers, if you feel like you have an edge on something about the way that they match up, or what their game plan is going to be, I would just be conscientious about backing them for the full game, because a guy like Blaine Gabbert is a competent quarterback. Is not exactly the same situation that we saw with the Titans yesterday, with Fitzpatrick getting a bunch of first team reps in practice this week and kind of being pushed specifically to push Mariota. But Blaine Gabbert's, he's been around for a long time. He's got a solid hold on this second quarterback spot, and if he's playing against some of the backups, he's going to rack up some yards and points. So, if anything, I think I would actually lean Bucks. But I certainly wouldn't count on the Steelers getting a win just because they're at home and just because the crowd's going to get into it.
All right. Well, there we have Buccaneers at Steelers. Let's let Christopher Smith lead us into the next game. He says Teddy Bridgewater going to try to light up Minnie tonight. Let's take a look at this game. Vikings at Saints. Saints opened at -3. They're now at -2.5 at Pinnacle, and Bet Online 3 everywhere else. The total opened at 37. Now it's 37.5 everywhere. 38 at UWager. Mike Zimmer 14-7 against the spread, and 8-12-1. Veering towards the under. Sean Payton 26-23 against the spread in preseason, and 22-23-4 towards the over/under. Vikings defense has a lot of depth. They have a lot of depth, and we will probably see that this evening. And Chad Beebe, some of these guys trying to make an impact this year who didn't make much of one last year. Chad Beebe, Northern Illinois, will be rolling most likely. Vikings have addressed their weakness on the offensive line. Garrett Bradbury in the first round and Drew Samia in the fourth. And tonight will be all about Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill at quarterback. And Peyton has said about Bridgewater, he is certainly going to play a lot this week. When you hear that Bridgewater is certainly going to play a lot this week, Donnie Rightside, does that give an edge to the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, I like that. And I hope it means more than he's going to play. Like, and Jacoby Brissett's going to get a lot of time. Well, he didn't really get it too much time. Would he throw like 5 passes last night? If he does get a really good look, that's going to be an added bump. And also, you're talking about a backup behind him with Taysom Hill, which is the same thing. Look, again, Josh Jacobs isn't the end-all, be-all quarterback. Who's probably going to be a career third stringer. But when we talk about some aspects in the preseason, what happens, if you watch Taysom Hill, I mean, the guy's been there, done that. He's been around the NFL. He's a jackknife. He's going to get a chance to show a little bit off at quarterback. And he's got some wheels, which you love. Again, these third and fourth string offensive linemen that aren't going to be playing football much longer. They can't hold their blocks. They can't pick up blitzes. They have barely anything going on. So if the play breaks down, give me some guy with feet. I think the better backup situation here is with New Orleans, the same way I do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it a home field advantage? Are we getting, get back from the Minnesota Miracle? None of that out here. I just think the better overall backup situation is going to the New Orleans Saints. I think they win this game as well, the same way I think Pittsburgh does also, Jimmy.
There we go. Donnie backing both home teams tonight. Whale Capper, Vikings at Saints.
Unbelievable that Donnie would go against his Super Bowl champion Minnesota Vikings. I'm shocked. I'm going to go against Donnie on this one. I like the Vikings in this spot. It comes down to their defensive depth for me, and their defensive coaching staff in general. Like, they have coached up, replacement level guys to be good players year in, year out. And while I like Teddy Bridgewater, like I like what we've seen from him over the course of his NFL career, and like last year when the Saints, scooped him, I thought, man, that was a coup. Like, they got their next starting quarterback. This is going to be great. You go back and look at the way that the Saints utilized him in the preseason last year, it wasn't impressive. The handful of times that Teddy Bridgewater has been injected into the starting role for the Saints team, it doesn't look like the coaches really know how to adapt their offense from what Drew Brees brings to the table to what Teddy Bridgewater does. And so I don't know that I have a lot of hope here that Bridgewater is going to look like a competent quarterback under this Sean Payton system. It's a good fit in theory, but I have yet to really see it manifest as an effective and impressive offense. And so, Taysom Hill may undo me on this one. That's positively possible, because he's a dynamic athlete, and if he gets legit reps at the QB position, they may score some points that I'm not counting on here. But overall, I think the fact that that the Vikings are going to be focusing on integrating their young offensive linemen and probably key on the running game, I think they're going to find space. I think they're gonna get yards on the ground against the Saints second unit D, which is not great. And the Saints as an overall team, I don't really have a lot of respect for their depth. So I think the Vikings come away with the win here, and I think the cherry on top is that kind of like for whatever reason, Harbaugh and for whatever reason Pete Carroll care about the preseason and go for the wins. There's a little bit of that with Zimmer as well. He definitely kind of values these more than most coaches do in terms of opportunities to get momentum going with your team. And if it comes into a late game situation, I would expect Zimmer to kind of go for the jugular as opposed to just waving the white flag.
Very interesting. Donnie Rightside, Whale Capper on either side here. Now let's talk total. We'll go right back to you, Whale Capper. It's veering up. 37 and a half. There's a 38 that you wager. What do you think about this total?
Yeah, this is another underlook for me. I'm not interested in expecting, touchdowns, especially effective or efficient offenses here. I think the Minnesota defense is the unit that gets this done. So I would look for an under. I'm probably looking for a first half under, specifically circling a first half under here, just because I think as we get later into the game, maybe you see more trickery, more silliness, more risk taking on the part of the Saints offense, which could be some unexpected late points there. First half under is probably my angle I'm hitting if I'm hitting a total here.
First half under, says Whale Capper. Donnie Rightside, total here. Viking Saints now at 37 and a half.
I'm on the same wavelength. I'm going to take the under 37.5 just to try to look at this because you have the opposite sides here, right? You have Mike Zimmer, who's defensive coordinator, defensive head coach. He's going to preach defense coming in. It's toughness. So they're really going to be ramped up on defense. Then you're going to flip it over to the offensive side where Sean Payton says, you know what? I don't want to show these guys anything because when it comes down to it, these are going to be two players in the NFC playoff race. Do they want to show maybe a flea flicker in the first half or second half that somebody can file that one away for later in the year? This game is going to be so vanilla played. Give me the under 37.5.
The under. That sounds like the play I trust the most through these two games that we're talking about. Tom Marino says, I'd lean under. Bridgewater almost never threw down the field even before his knee injury. So there's our action for this evening. Let's move on to Saturday's games. We'll start with Bengals at Chiefs. Chiefs opened at -5, which seems like too high, and the market got nailed. It's now at 3.5. The total opened at 37. Pinnacle still at 37, but every other book, 36.5 for 36. Zach Taylor making his head coaching debut for the Bengals. Andy Reid, 38, 39, and 4 against the spread in the preseason, and 44, 36, and 1. Leaning towards overs for Andy Reid in the preseason. We're not going to see Mahomes. Chad Henne, Chase Litton, and Kyle Shermer will be getting the playing time. I expect both teams to struggle moving the ball. I think both teams are going to struggle moving the ball here. I can understand why this total is dropping. Is this a spot where we should be looking at the under? Donnie Rightside, Bengals at Chiefs.
Yeah, here's the interesting part, Jimmy, because I actually read an article that showed Patrick Mahomes is going to play the first quarter for the Chiefs, and then Chad Henne's going to get the second, and then they're going to move it on between the third and the fourth, which brings in an interesting, dichotomy when you look at the game itself, because if it opens up at 5 and Andy Reid's coming out saying Patrick Mahomes is going to play the first quarter, why would it go from 5 to 3.5 in the opposite direction? It's not like the Cincinnati Bengals are going to say, well, Andy Dalton's going to play 3 quarters in this game, and we're really going to try to win and try to set the tone because I'm a new head coach. Maybe it's the new head coach angle for Cincinnati where he's going to take this more serious, because I've seen over a decade with Andy Reid in the city of Philadelphia, and it's always been sloppy football throughout the preseason. He doesn't care about the way it ends, just wants to get guys on tape, keep it vanilla, that quick West Coast passing game. So the interesting part in the line movement has me puzzling a little bit, but if I'm going to get a whole first quarter out of Patrick Mahomes and then slide it down throughout, I'm probably still going to lean the Chiefs in this situation, which makes it so interesting of why that line is 5 and then down to 3.5 here.
Definitely very interesting. And D-Money backing that up. D-Money saying Mahomes playing the first quarter. Wow, that is not the way I had expected this game to break down. Whale Capper, Bengals at Chiefs.
Yeah, I saw that same report too, and I guess we'll have to do our research tomorrow, but make sure that this is the way that they are really approaching it. But if they're going to throw Pat Mahomes out there in the first quarter, beyond just the fact that you have a player of that caliber in this kind of situation, it's a signal to the rest of the team, that gets them fired up. Oh, we are playing to win this. This is serious now. This is for real. And I would look specifically for the Chiefs' first half in that situation. And in fact, if you wanted to grab a deflated price on the Chiefs that you can get now for the full game, if you want to back them in the first half, and then if they come through and play lights out in the first half, come back on the Bengals in the second half, you might have a nice little middle opportunity there, because it does make sense to me that Andy Reid's going to eventually wave the white flag here. It does make sense to me that a guy like Zach Taylor is going to push hard to try to develop some momentum and get the troops feeling good about themselves. So we could see a situation, kind of a lopsided tale of two halves here, where the Chiefs go into halftime with a comfortable touchdown plus lead, and then come back and concede it in the second half. So that's kind of the way I would approach this one. And I was looking at the over here just on the basis of the Chiefs. If they have any weaknesses in their defensive secondary, they're going to really need to see what they have there from the second, third unit guys, because I don't know who's playing nickel cornerback. I don't know who's playing dime quarterback for these teams, for this team. And that's where teams are going to try to attack them in this regular season. So I would expect that, the Chiefs kind of test their guys on defense in terms of, who they have in the second, third unit for cornerback, defensive backfield. And they're probably going to give up some passing yards, as we get deeper into this game.
That is in play. Bengals makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense if Mahomes is rolling. The first half total is not out yet here. They're not giving us numbers at this point. They are giving us the full game total, but not the first half. I guess they're waiting on that as well. Interesting turn of events. All right, let's move over to Rams at Raiders. Raiders open at -2.5, now -4.5 or -5. Total open at 37. Now it's 35.5 at Pinnacle, 35 everywhere else. Sean McDermott, 3-5 against the spread, 3-5 over under 5 unders. John Gruden, 18-12-3 against the spread. This is when he turns it on. What a loser. 15-18 to the over under. Antonio Brown dealing with nonstop drama. We have the helmet issue that's coming up in the chat. We have the frostbite from the cryotherapy machine. I mean, it just never ends with them. Todd Gurley likely not going to play. He didn't play at all in exhibition last year. So we'll see basically what happens there. But Mike Glennon, Nathan Peterman will play, battling for the backup role. Bortles should see action. I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? This is a tricky spot to cap here. Rams at Raiders. Donnie Rightside, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, we see the line creep up there, and who knows if it's, I mean, usually the public doesn't push around the lines. Hey, man, I really watched them on Hard Knocks. They look like they're working so hard. I just want to bet it and watch it. That's usually not really the case. But when you take a look at the Los Angeles Rams, they're notorious for saying in certain instances, we don't give a damn. The only thing that matters is we get to opening day without getting injuries. We've seen at the end, I remember, was it 2 years ago when the Rams were making their run? They played nobody in the last game of the season. The 49ers absolutely rolled them up. This is that same type of thing where they're only worried about getting healthy, getting into it. And I can just see that old, John Gruden in there. It's the Raiders, now we're in the front and center. We got to win football games and do all this stuff. I probably lean to the Raiders because I don't mind their backup quarterbacking in this game. Mike Glennon, Nathan Peterman. At least you have guys that have been around the NFL. John Gruden has schooled them well. And just taking a look from the opposite end, as I just talked about, the Rams, how much do they really care? And if we're looking at, Blake Bortles in the game, I mean, okay, that's nice. And Brandon Allen and John Walford out of I guess that's the kid. I want to say the kid out of Wake Forest. But I like it overall better. Do I think the Raiders will give a better performance and care for more? That's the way I'm going to lean in this one. No real sweat either way, but I'm not trusting the Rams. They don't give a damn.
They don't care, but at -4.5 or -5, I mean, this seems like so many points. This is the type of situation where Gruden will care about it. God, this guy makes no sense to me. Whale Capper, Rams, Raiders. How do you break this down?
What a loser, this Gruden guy. I got to tell you, that was pretty good, Jimmy. The Antonio Brown saga is absolutely bonkers. If you haven't already read up that Michael Silver thread, I can't really wrap my head around it other than, there's something not quite right with Antonio Brown, but we'll leave that for another day because I wouldn't expect to see him here even if he did have non-cryogenically frozen feet. I think the Raiders are the right side, though, and I don't mind laying the points, and it's not entirely because Gruden cares. They have a very young team. They have a lot of guys who will be making their first ever start in black and silver out there who they just got in this year's draft, guys who are hungry for some NFL action. The quotes about Nathan Peterman that we've heard from John Gruden over the course of this camp imply that he really does believe in this kid, and he's going to put him in a chance to, give him an opportunity to succeed this year. And by the way, I think the Raiders are probably a 2-14 team. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nathan Peterman make some starts as we get down into the later half of this season. So I think Gruden would like to see what he has in Peterman in kind of a situation where he sets him up to succeed in the first half here. On the flip side, you mentioned the Rams don't particularly care. The Rams got a super late start to camp. They haven't been practicing very much. The only handful of practices they've had against the Raiders up in Napa recently. They have a very thin team. The second, third, fourth units on this Rams team are really, really, really poor. And I will not at all be surprised if the Raiders look like champs and the Rams look like, hot garbage. And, the Raiders kind of get a comfortable win here. So I'm interested in laying these Raiders points. I think they put on a show for us. And I think this carries into next episode of Hard Knocks, where they try to kind of, shine how great things looked in preseason week 1, as opposed to kind of focusing on what in the hell is going on with their star wide receiver.
Is this another spot like the Titans where you double up first half, full game?
Yeah, I do actually think that makes sense. And, I think are we going to see Blake Bortles for the Rams? Is Blake Bortles going to give us a pick six in the first half? Hopefully, that seems like a reasonable expectation. But in seriousness, though, I think the Raiders are a wire-to-wire winner here, and of the games from here to the end of Week 1, that's probably the only side I have legitimate confidence in.
That seems to make a lot of sense. Thinking about our guy, the Chicago Sports Informant, celebrating his birthday today. At this point, doubling up on the Raiders first half full game seems to be the look after all these breakdowns that I'm probably the most confident in. And I like you guys taking the under at Vikings Saints. I'm going to spend more time on that. Okay, let's move on to the final game of the weekend here for us in NFL. Cowboys at 49ers. Niners opened up at -3. They're now -4.5. The total opened at 36 and stayed there. Jason Garrett, terrible in the preseason, 11-21-1 against the spread, 14-16-3 to the over-under. Shanahan, 3-4-1 against the spread, and 5-3. 5 of his 8 games have gone over. Cowboys have to work on their wide receiver depth, and there is a Cooper Rush, Mike White backup quarterback battle. 2 quarterbacks in the limited time that we've seen them have looked terrible. I don't know how they're going to get the ball to these wide receivers that they need to study so badly. And then we have CJ and Nick Mullins, whom we've seen succeed in important regular season battles. 49ers also have, 3 running backs. I don't know if we'll get to see Coleman, Breda, McKinnon, but to me, if we're just talking about backup quarterback battles, well, the 49ers should run all over the Cowboys backups here with 2 quarterbacks that we've seen succeed against first stringers. Donnie Rightside, Cowboys at 49ers.
Yeah, the only way I can see this game, Jimmy, would be the 49ers. If you watch just last year, I mean, it does seem to me, Jimmy, because you're not going to have Dak Prescott playing this game. But if he plays, we'll take a snap or 2. Cooper Rush, I mean, okay, Central Michigan's finest. Mike White, Taron Christian. And then when you look over and you see Jimmy Garoppolo, who I don't know if he's going to play or not, but if he does, it might be maybe a series, maybe 2, just to get his feet back wet. But Nick Mullins, CJ, this is like an unfair fight right now. You have 3 legitimate guys that are going to, like the second 2 guys are going to treat this game like the Super Bowl again. And these guys were performing under pressure with live bullets last year. I think Jason Garrett's going to come in with his super vanilla scheme, not caring about this game one bit. And I think you have the second and third quarterbacks on the 49ers that are going to take this game seriously. I think it's the Niners in a runaway in this one, Jimmy.
Interesting. It becomes, looking at these games, it feels like double up on the Raiders, double up on the Niners. And if you want to make moves on the first 3, you can. Maybe the Vikings Saints under. But these 2 sort of are setting up, especially with the way the market's moving. I know we're talking about Week 1 preseason, so we don't want to get too confident. But man, it seems sort of simple at this point. Whale Capper, Cowboys at 49ers.
Okay, so here's what you do. You take 10% of your bankroll, okay? And then you take 10% of that, and then you take 10% of that, and then you spread it out over whatever you're going to play in the preseason for the rest of the preseason. So let's be serious, though. I get your angles and the backup quarterback situation way in favor of the Niners here. But as I said last, whereas the Raiders were my favorite side of these 5 games, the under in this look is my favorite total. And this has. You said, we saw Beathard, we saw Mullins play against first-string defenses last year, and that's true. And Beathard did not do great. Mullins looked very capable. But I will tell you, the depth and the youth on the Dallas Cowboys defense is impressive. And they are going to have second, third unit guys out there that are fighting hard for bottom of the roster spots because they have relatively deep team overall, relatively deep defense in general. And I would expect that the Dallas Cowboys defense makes this a very, very tough for these young quarterbacks in Beathard and Mullins. So, the under here, I think, is pretty much a no-brainer. On the other side of the ball, I wouldn't expect much of any offense out of this Dallas Cowboys unit. I think they're going to look pretty pathetic, mostly because I don't have any faith in these quarterbacks. And even if the quarterbacks were relatively good, the wide receivers they're throwing to are horrific. This is a brutal receiving crew once you get past Amari Cooper, who we are not going to see on Monday. Or is it Sunday? Whatever day that they're going to play this game. Is it Saturday? They're playing Saturday? I can't remember. whatever the case
Saturday.
is, you're not going to see very impressive receiving talent out there for the Cowboys, which is going to make it tough for them to have consistency moving the ball. And if I would say the backup running back who's taking snaps right now in place of Zeke. I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but he's looked pretty darn impressive. And he may be enough to kind of threaten or scare you if you're holding a Niners ticket. But the under here really is, I think, the most solid of what we've talked about so far.
Really, out of all 5 games. So looking at these 5 games, Donnie Rightside, we'll start with you. Of these 5 games, so we have the Buccaneers, Steelers, Vikings, Saints, Bengals, Chiefs, Rams, Raiders, Cowboys, 49ers. If we want to give our guy, Capper John, the Chicago sports informant, one play for a birthday pick, what would it be from your side of things, Donnie?
Honestly, it's square, but it's going to be the Oakland Raiders. Just give me the team that I think is going to put a little bit more into their offense and into their game plan and wanted to be tough. It's the Raiders. We have to carry this over. We're on Hard Knocks. We got the cameras in our face. Don't embarrass ourselves. I would actually think Oakland. I think Oakland carries the day and beats up on the Rams. I just do.
Oakland carries the day and beats up on the Rams. That seems to make a lot of sense at this point. Whale Capper, for our guy, the Chicago sports informant, what would be your favorite look of these 5 games?
Well, it's your birthday, so you want to have a little fun here. I think we try to pair up a little Raiders win on the money line, parlay that with Niners under. Those are the two sides that make the side in total that make the most sense for me. You probably get a little like a better than 2-to-1 payday if you put that little double together there, and should be a fun way to end the weekend.
I like that too. Great stuff, you guys. And Nutflush Island says, what happened to your beach background, Whale? I'm thinking of the Karate Kid movie in those surroundings. Is there karate happening behind you?
He's in Reseda. He's up in Reseda.
It's you know what? It's beautiful here in Southern California, but if you're out in the sun, you really take a beating. So, I don't want the wrinkles. I want the nice, the keep the skin in relatively good shape. But I'm working on my beach body for Miami. I'll tell you that much. I've been down at the beach in the morning getting pumped, so I'm ready for Miami. That's for damn sure.
Jeez, I've gone to the gym once since I came down to Costa Rica just under 2 years ago. Once. And I hold all my weight in my breast. So that's what you guys will see at the beach in Miami.
You always did seem like a breast guy. That makes sense to
me. Donnie, are you pumped for our big trip to Miami?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Now that we get the extra itineraries coming out, we're going to see what's going to take place. I'm really looking forward to it. Just sit back, relax, nice weather, football, gambling, talk. And I was kind of disappointed, Jimmy. I saw one of your tweets out there that's saying we were to possibly go into a dog track. I would have just set everything off.
I wanted to go to the dog track, but they passed a law in Florida, and only one dog track is left. And that's going to be gone in 8 months. And that's down in Palm Beach, so it's over an hour away. I've never gone to a dog track. And we've got a guy in our chat who you guys probably know, an SBR guy named Ron Walsek. And in 1982, he started the first program to deliver the retired Greyhound dogs to homes around North America. And he's
nice.
Yeah, he's the guy who started that in 1982. And I wanted to really experience a dog track, but I don't. And there's Friday and Saturday night at 7:00, but we have week 0 of college football on Saturday. Friday, we got the Marlins game. I tried everything I possibly could to get us there. It just doesn't work. But the horse track is right behind us, Donnie. We should be able to see it from our hotel rooms, Gulfstream Park. So we're going to be hammering that as much as possible. And Rem Most, my guy Rem Most says, succulent breast. Thank you, Rem. Thank you for your respect and the dignity that you give towards my breasts. That means the world to me. Nutflush Allen says Jimmy would get so pissed off last year with your background. And you would think, and that's the Whale Capper's background, you'd think me here in Costa Rica, I would get all this beauty. But I've been to the beach a couple times in 2 years. I'm in San Jose, where if I go for a walk, I will get robbed. So I do a lot of, I don't go anywhere alone. Let me just leave it at that. Man, and Sean Mick says nightclubs at 5 a.m. resemble dog tracks. I'm gonna have to sit with that for a little while, Sean. That seems like it's a riddle of some kind. Thank you guys so much. We have no show without the chat. You guys truly, with your insights and your humor, and you guys make this show special. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Donnie Rightside, any last words for the SBR crew that we run with every day?
Yeah, no, look, this is like week one of like 25 straight weeks that we're going to be on having a lot of fun. If we can have this much fun in preseason week one, remember how much fun we had last year all the way out through the season? And we used to joke about it. We'd get into the playoffs and there would be only 2 games, 1 game, and we could still talk about 1 game for 1 hour twice a week. Join us all throughout the year. We're going to have a lot of fun on this show, guys.
Yeah, I love it so much. I love it so much being here with you guys and being with the chat. Whale Capper, any last words for our guys?
Yeah, man. Enjoy the rest of the preseason. This is so fun to have football back. It's so great to be talking to you guys. Thank you for joining us live in the chat. It is great to have the commentary. And, best of luck this weekend, fellas.
Yes, best of luck. And I should remember what Whale Capper said about taking 10% and taking 10% of that and then taking 10% of that. Because my unit size was $75, so I lost $160 yesterday. $160, man. What a chump I am. What a schmuck. That's what my dad used to call me. A schmuck. Thank you guys so much on behalf of Donnie Rightside, Whale Capper, and myself, everybody SBR. Thank you guys so much for watching. Week 1 of the preseason in the books every Tuesday and Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can find us here. Let's have a profitable weekend. Stay in the black. And all love to all you guys. Talk soon.